eggs have been called everything from a superfood to a heart attack in a shell. No wonder people over 65 are confused about whether to eat them or avoid them like spam calls. Today, we're cracking open the truth, because it turns out eggs might just be one of the best tools you've got for staying sharp, strong, and independent. I'll be honest with you, eggs have had a rough ride over the years. One decade, they're the hero of breakfast. The next decade, they're the villain that's supposedly clogging arteries, left and right. I grew up hearing that if you ate too many eggs, you were basically volunteering for a heart attack. But here's the funny part. Every time I've taken eggs off my plate, I end up missing them. Not just because they're tasty, but because my body feels different when I don't eat them. And once I started really digging into the science, especially as I got older, I realized eggs aren't the bad guys they've been made out to be. In fact, they might be one of the simplest, cheapest, most powerful foods we can lean on as we age. Now let's get real for a second. Once you hit your 60s, your body isn't shy about reminding you that things are changing. Muscles don't bounce back as quickly. Recovery takes longer. And sometimes you feel like you've run a marathon just by carrying groceries up a flight of stairs. I remember when I first learned that after 60, you can lose up to 1% of your muscle mass every single year. 1% doesn't sound like much until you realize that over a decade, that's 10% of your strength gone. And it doesn't just mean you can't open pickle jars anymore. It means your risk of falling goes up. Your balance isn't what it used to be, and even simple things like healing from surgery take longer. That's when protein becomes non-negotiable. And guess what? Eggs deliver exactly the kind of protein our bodies are begging for. Not just any protein, but complete protein, meaning all 9 essential amino acids. That's the stuff your body can't make on its own. The building blocks of muscle, immune cells, and repair systems. Every large egg packs about 6 to 7 grams of it, and it's way easier to digest than steak or pork chops. I like meat as much as anyone, but when your stomach decides it's not in the mood for heavy meals, eggs never let you down. And while we're on the subject of things sneaking away as we age, let's talk about memory. Have you ever walked into a room and completely forgotten why you're there? That little mental hiccup happens to everyone, but it's definitely more noticeable past 65. I used to think that was just getting older. Turns out, there's a nutrient most of us barely get enough of, and it plays a huge role in brain power. It's called choline. Hardly anyone talks about it, but your brain loves the stuff. Choline helps your brain cells communicate. It's like giving your neurons faster Wi-Fi. Without it, the signal gets fuzzy. The wild part is, about 90% of people aren't getting enough. That means most of us are basically running on low battery without realizing it. One egg gives you close to a third of what you need for the day, and the research is amazing. People with higher choline levels score better on memory tests, and their brains literally shrink less as they age. When I learned that, I didn't see eggs the same way again. Suddenly, they weren't just breakfast food. They were like my insurance policy against brain fog. Eyesight is another thing that sneaks up on you. I don't care how many carrots you ate as a kid. By the time you hit retirement, small print starts looking smaller, and night driving starts feeling more like a daredevil sport. That's where eggs pull another surprise. They're loaded with lutein and zeaxanthin. Don't worry about pronouncing them perfectly. Just remember they're the bodyguards of your eyes. They park themselves right in your retina and act like natural sunglasses, filtering out blue light and reducing damage that leads to macular degeneration. The cool part? The lutein from eggs is more absorbable than the lutein from spinach or kale because the yolk's natural fats help your body actually use it. So you don't just get nutrients, you get nutrients that stick around and do their job. I like to think of it as downloading high-res vision upgrades straight from my breakfast plate. Of course, the big elephant, or should I say chicken, in the room is cholesterol. This is the part of the conversation where people usually start looking nervous. For years, the advice was to avoid eggs because each yolk carries about 185 milligrams of cholesterol. And since high blood cholesterol is linked to heart disease, eggs were guilty by association. But science, thankfully, moved forward. What we know now is that dietary cholesterol, the kind you eat, doesn't directly translate to high blood cholesterol. Your liver actually adjusts how much cholesterol it makes based on what you eat. So when you have more from food, your liver makes less. Large studies have found no solid link between eating eggs and higher risk of heart attacks or strokes for most people. The real danger has always been in the company eggs keep. Scrambled eggs with spinach on whole grain toast? That's a heart-healthy breakfast. But eggs fried in butter next to bacon and a mountain of white toast? That's not an egg problem. That's a saturated fat and processed meat problem. Now, if you do have diabetes or high cholesterol, moderation matters more. That doesn't mean eggs are off limits. It just means instead of 7 yolks a week, maybe stick with 3 or 4 and fill the rest in with egg whites. The whites are pure protein, no fat, no cholesterol, and they make it easy to keep your muscle mass up without overloading on anything else. It's a simple tweak, and honestly, once you get used to mixing a yolk with a couple of whites in an omelet, you don't feel like you're missing anything. Speaking of omelets, let's talk about cooking, because the way you prepare eggs can make the difference between a longevity booster and a heartburn disaster. High heat and lots of butter might taste great, but it creates oxidized cholesterol, basically damaged cholesterol molecules that are much more likely to mess with your arteries. Not to mention, frying eggs in bacon grease is practically begging your doctor for a lecture. The best methods are gentle ones: boiling, poaching, or scrambling slowly in a little olive oil. Those ways keep the nutrients intact and don't overload your plate with extra fat. One of my favorite quick meals is a veggie scramble with tomatoes, spinach, and peppers. Add a slice of whole grain toast and some avocado, and you've got protein, fiber, antioxidants, and healthy fats all working together. Compare that to eggs with sausage and hash browns, and you can see how the plate makes all the difference. Eggs don't just stop at muscles, brains, and hearts. They sneak in a ton of other little bonuses too. Take vitamin D, for example. That's a big one because so many older adults are running low on it, especially if you spend most of your time indoors or avoid the sun. Without enough vitamin D, your bones get brittle, your immune system slows down, and your mood can take a nosedive. Ever notice how the winter blues hit harder when you're not seeing the sun much? That's often vitamin D waving a little white flag. Eggs help fill in that gap, and while they're not the only source, they're one of the easiest ways to get a natural boost. Then, you've got the B vitamins, B12 and riboflavin being the stars. B12 is a lifesaver for nerves and red blood cells, and without it, you can feel tired, foggy, and even depressed. Riboflavin, on the other hand, is like your body's little energy converter, making sure the food you eat actually gets turned into usable fuel. Together, they keep you moving, thinking, and feeling like yourself. And let's not forget selenium. This little mineral doesn't get nearly enough attention, but it's basically your built-in bodyguard against oxidative stress. That's the scientific way of saying the rust that builds up inside you as you age. Oxidative stress is linked to faster aging, more inflammation, and higher risk of chronic diseases. So, yeah, selenium matters. When you really look at the laundry list of what's inside an egg, protein, vitamins, antioxidants, minerals, it's kind of hilarious that people spend good money on 5 different supplements when they could just boil an egg in 10 minutes and get it all in one neat little package. Here's another practical tip most people overlook. How you store them matters. A lot of people keep eggs in the door of the fridge because that little rack looks so convenient. But every time you open and close the door, the temperature swings, and that shortens their shelf life. The back of the fridge, in the carton, is where they belong. That way they stay fresh, they don't soak up odors from other foods, and the nutrients don't degrade as quickly. And if you're not sure whether an egg is still good, don't overthink it. Fill a bowl with water and drop it in. If it sinks, it's fresh. If it floats, it's time to let it go. It's the closest thing we have to a built-in expiration detector. So how many eggs are actually safe? Here's the good news. If you're healthy and your cholesterol is in check, up to 1 egg per day is not just safe, it's beneficial. That means you can enjoy 5 to 7 eggs a week without stressing. If you've got diabetes or high cholesterol, keep it closer to 3 or 4 yolks and make up the difference with whites. And of course, the context matters. Pair your eggs with veggies, whole grains, and healthy fats, and you're turning breakfast into preventive medicine. Pair them with bacon, white bread, and butter, and you're undoing the benefits before you've even finished your coffee. At the end of the day, eggs aren't magic, but they're pretty close to it when you think about what you're getting in such a small, affordable package. They're like nature's little multivitamins wrapped in a shell. And the best part? They're versatile. Boil them, poach them, bake them into muffins with spinach, or toss a sliced hard-boiled egg on top of your salad. They fit anywhere in the day, not just at breakfast. So the next time you crack one open, don't feel guilty, feel smart. Because you're not just making an omelet, you're giving your body protein to keep your muscles strong, nutrients to keep your brain sharp, antioxidants to keep your eyes clear, and vitamins to keep your mood steady. Eggs don't just fill you up, they set you up for independence, for energy, and for more years of feeling like yourself. If you found this helpful, do me a favor. Hit that like button, share it with someone who still thinks eggs are the enemy, and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into foods that can keep you feeling strong and sharp. And now, I think it's time you went and made yourself some eggs.